Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is SharePoint Power Hour. This is a weekly show we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. SharePoint Power Hour is for SharePoint 2013, SharePoint Online with Office 365, SharePoint 2016, a lot of different topics that we cover. Usually the gist is that this is going to be for more power users and business users and not necessarily a lot of programming or hardcore technical things that we do. So today our topic is going to be this concept of client-side rendering and jQuery with Mark Rackley is here. He's going to be our presenter. So we go way back. We've known each other like 7 years or something like that, and we're both Microsoft MVPs. And so let's see, I think you and I are the only ones in the chat. I don't know if anybody else is going to be joining today, but little tidbit, do you remember Steven and Ryan that were on my team when we worked at Rackspace? Well, they actually work for Mark now. They joined his company. So I was hoping to get them in here too. But I'll go ahead and switch over to you and let you introduce yourself and go ahead with our topic. And oh, and everybody, we're in the Slack channel. So I put a link in the description for the YouTube video to request to join it if you're not in it yet. And if you've already been invited to the Slack channel, it's iwmentor.slack.com, and iwmentor is my own SharePoint training company. So over to you, Mark.
All right. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So yeah, thanks for allowing me to come on the show. I know we reached out briefly about doing something with client-side rendering and JSLink, and I said, well, why don't we put a little spin on this? Why don't we do something, a new session that I'm creating that's called a Power Users Intro to jQuery, which it's along the same concepts of client-side rendering, whereas when you use JSLink, you're changing the way a web part is rendered. But what we'll be doing today is kind of going through the same process, but instead of rendering a web part differently, we're going to render the page differently. We'll be doing things to the entire page. And this session like I said, it's a brand new session, so it might suck, but hey, we'll give it a shot. But it's meant to kind of give those power users some basic concepts and some basic understanding of how these scripts work so that they can use them and maybe debug some of their problems. Because the thing is that users are finding scripts from my blog and from other places on the web, and then they're throwing them into their sites without really understanding what they're doing. And by doing that, they're not taking into account if they throw 4 scripts on the page, that they may be conflicting with each other and they may cause other issues. And you can't just do that. You have to have some sort of understanding of what's going on there. So that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. So I guess we'll go to my slides. I'll kind of go into the session and do some talking. I am trying to keep an eye on the Slack channel here in case people have questions. If I'm missing a question that's important, Laura, you can.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay, great, cool. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you don't see it for some reason, or if it's just not showing very well. I do live in Arkansas, so
Y'all have internet there?
We got internet, and you know what? Sometimes they forget to feed the hamsters, and the little wheels don't run as much. So it's just, it don't work too well sometimes. So anyway, here we go. Did you guys see my screen?
I see bacon and I see me.
Okay, my 2 favorite things, right? All right, so let's get this. Okay, and it's showing on the other monitor. Man, it's just never going smoothly, is it? View. All right, what are you guys seeing?
I see the slide deck part.
You're not seeing the actual presentation view?
No.
All right, so let's.
You can either force PowerPoint to go to that screen, or you can just share the other screen.
I'm a developer. We don't know how to do things like that. Yeah, let me just force to go to the screen.
Slideshow. It's in the slideshow tab.
It's in the slideshow tab? Thank you. Where's my
Uh,
mouse out? Use presenter view?
no, well, you don't want to use presenter view. What the? Usually you can pick your monitor right there. Maybe it's because you're already in. There you go.
Ah,
There
I
you
don't know
go.
what I did. I have no idea what I did,
Okay.
but we'll go with that. So yeah, a little bit about me before we get started. I work for a company in Cincinnati, Ohio called Pay Group, and as Laura said, we actually hired both Ryan and Steven, who used to work for Laura, and they're awesome. We're really happy that they came on board. I've been in development now for over 20 years. I've been using SharePoint since 2007, and I've known Laura since I think 2008, maybe 2009. I organize an event in Branson, Missouri called SharePoint-A-Palooza, and I blog, write, and speak, and I like bacon. So feel free to follow me on Twitter at @mrackley. My blog is SharePointHillbilly.com, and there's just other information about me. So kind of what we're going to do, we kind of gave you an intro before about what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how you should do some of these things, some best practices, and we'll go through some demos to hopefully be more interesting for you guys. So what we're going to be doing is, again, enhancing the pages in SharePoint using JavaScript and jQuery. And we're going to do this by just adding a script to a document library and throwing a web part on a page that points to that script. This is really cool because you can do so much with just a little bit of effort. You can do things like dashboards, custom forms, animations, and overall just make your SharePoint sites a lot more usable and visually appealing so that they don't look like SharePoint. The reason I like this approach is because SharePoint gets you most of the way there. It can do 85% of what you need a lot of applications to do. It takes care of your data storage, takes care of your security, authentication. It's got the built-in workflows. It's got built-in forms and stuff, and it does so much for you. The problem is it doesn't always lay things out in a way that makes sense as an application. It doesn't tie everything together very well. But using things like jQuery and JavaScript, you can start to tie all those pieces together to make it a more seamless application. It makes things more visually appealing, easier to use, and if you know what you're doing, it's pretty simple to do. So, and also with the push to the cloud, this stuff is just getting more and more important because it's you're not deploying code to the server, you're not deploying anything, and it works in the cloud. And with the new SharePoint framework coming out, it's going to take these same principles and just put it in a more managed context to make it even easier for developers to maintain this sort of functionality. So there's a lot going on there. So you as a power user, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be uploading files or a file or files to a document library somewhere. You want to make sure that your users have read access to this document library. And then you're going to create or edit a page in SharePoint. We're going to drop a web part on that page, and then it's going to point to that script we uploaded. And that's all there is to it from a really basic standpoint. So let's go through a quick demo, and just so you can see how easy it is to actually get started. And like I said, we're going to go through several demos, and we'll start off with the most basic. You guys still hearing me okay and everything?
Yeah, we've got one. Greg made a comment, kind of an initial question, and you might address this anyway, but he said he's found that when referencing jQuery CDNs in a master page, sometimes scripts such as hillbilly tabs don't seem to want to work unless directly referenced in the script itself. Anyone experienced this? So
it's possible that I've seen issues like that when a minimal download strategy is enabled. That's a feature on your sites, and it can cause issues with scripts being loaded properly. So try disabling that to see if that helps. And it's true, there are two types of people, those who like bacon and those who are wrong. So yeah, I agree, Greg. But that'd be something I would look at. Otherwise, I'm not really sure. If you can give me some more information, maybe I can dig into it, because I've not quite seen that happen before. I'm also not saying I'm not doing anything wrong, because it's always possible I do something wrong. So here we are on my SharePoint site, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a code editor. I like to use Visual Studio Code. This is just to look at my scripts. Don't get too scared by the script. And I am going to load for you guys kind of the most simple script you can ever have when you're using jQuery. So what we're looking at here is a script. And in this script, I am referencing the jQuery library. And then I have this little function here called jQuery document ready. You don't really need to, the only thing you need to understand about this is where code gets executed, where script gets executed after the page loads. And then here's another alert that's going to fire up a number 2 that's going to happen as soon as the script loads. So this is a little developer-y. Don't worry too much about what this script does. Just I want to show you guys how we're going to actually get this into the site. So I've got this simple script, and I am going to save it to my folder I created here for the Power Hour, and we'll call it just jQuery1.js, and I'll save that. So now I'm going to come into my SharePoint site, and for my SharePoint site, I'm going to go into my Site Assets library. You know, the first time I saw the new site contents page was during a session, so that was fun. So we're in the Site Assets library. I'm just going to drag and drop my file into the library. And so now we've added this file to the library. So now I can come back into SharePoint, go into my site contents, go into my site pages, and now I'm going to add a web part page. And wait for a second. We'll call this page Power Hour. And now I'm going to add a web part to this page. And I'm going to add a media and content editor web part. And I'm going to edit the web part. And then over here in the content link section of the web part properties, I'm going to put the path to that file that we uploaded that was in Site Assets. So that was Site Assets, and I think we called it jQuery1.js, and I'm going to apply that. And as soon as I hit apply, it's going to actually reload the page, and it's going to execute that script.
Mark, this looks like a similar concept to using with just list web parts, using the JSLink field to put a reference to a JS file. Is it kind of just the same concept of pointing to a JS file on the page?
It's the same concept, except that this file is not necessarily just script, because we've got CSS references in there, we've got HTML in there, and we've got other JavaScript. So it's more than just JavaScript at this point. So
good to know.
Yeah. Let me hit the apply here, and it should. It's not popping in my alerts. You know, this is the way things go when you do a demo. It should be popping the alerts here. Let me look at my. So anyway, that's how you add a script to a page. You should be getting an alert there, but it's not. But we're not going to go into the debugging session since this is a power user session. The concept being that you have a script, you have that script located somewhere, and you add it to. I blame Arkansas too. You add it to a web part page. Link to that script, and that script will be executing on that page. So let's talk a little bit about some best practices, and then we're going to go into some more demos and we're working with as well. Now it's back on the other monitor.
This is like me. Every time we do Power Hour, I always manage to screw something up that has never screwed up before. Right, Joel?
I know. It's just okay. We'll just do it from this view because you guys can see the slides. Okay. So okay, if you're a power user and you're playing with scripts and you're doing stuff with some scripts, there's some things to think about. You wanna understand some of the basics, right? Because a lot of these times these scripts are made up of multiple files. Some of those files may be stored in a document library on your system. Some of those files may be stored elsewhere. So understand where those files are and make sure you have access to those files, because you have to have read access to wherever those files are located. And if you're referencing a file like jQuery, make sure you don't reference that file more than once. Like you may have jQuery in your master page, well then don't load it again on your page, because that can cause conflicts and that can cause issues for you later on. And in fact, if the other thing is, if you have scripts for my blogs and you throw like 4 of my scripts for my blogs on the same page, don't expect that to work, because they're all referencing the same scripts and they're all referencing different scripts, and they may have similar function names. And if you've got this, if 2 scripts have the same function name or the same variable name, that can overwrite the other, and it just causes a mess. So don't go out there, download tons of scripts, throw them on a page, then contact support because it doesn't work, because that really makes the support people kind of angry.
Okay,
so yeah,
Mark,
just again.
I've got a couple of questions. Greg said my settings icon is grayed out. I think that was a minute ago when you were in Visual Studio, maybe. And then Jim says, do you find that sometimes when you put in content editor disables your ribbon icons? I've had this happen when I use the RL helper child new form, and I have to go into SharePoint Designer.
I have not had adding a content editor disable my ribbon icons. I've had it to where if you add a content editor to a page with a list view on it, that list view no longer gets the focus by default, and you actually have to click on that list view for it to get the ribbon options for the list. So if maybe that's what's going on there, but just by adding a content web part, I've not had it disable the ribbon before. So yeah, but this stuff is also there is quirks with this stuff. If you add a script to the page, it has the ability at that point to hide things on the page. So that script you're adding may hide the ribbon entirely. It may do something else to the page. So again, kind of understand what that script is doing. So to that end, I wanted to give you guys kind of a tutorial about the layout of a script. And so I have a script here, and this is actually from one of my blogs. And I wanted to kind of explain the different sections of this script so you can understand what you're seeing here. So the section up at the top with the red box here, that is the script references that I'm talking about. This is saying that we're loading these other files because we need these other files in order for the rest of the script to run. And this is where it's important that if you're referencing jQuery in your master page, you don't want to also reference it here as well. So in this example, I'm referencing jQuery. I'm referencing another library called Masonry, and I'm referencing another library that has all of my functions in it called pategroup.applaunchr.
Is there a way that they'd be able to tell if their master page is referencing jQuery if they're not the ones who created it?
So there's some developer-y ways, but probably the easiest way would be to just do a view page source and then look for jQuery in the page source. And if you see it there, there's a good chance it's being loaded by your master page.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So in the next section that I have highlighted here, this is where you have your style sheets. So this could be just whatever CSS that your libraries may need or CSS that you've created yourself. If you want to reference an external style sheet, that's what that section is. And then we have some actual style that's in line in the script itself. So this is, I have a specific style created for something called a paid app tile, and it's in that style tags, and you can see, really, well, are you making fun of my script? So yeah, so this is the style, and this kind of style is how things are. And I'll get through this quickly so you power users don't fall asleep. You're then going to have some HTML in your script. So here I have a div on the page, and it's just an HTML. Is it a best practice to reference jQuery in a master page? I actually like referencing jQuery with a custom action, and that puts it into the master page because it allows you to activate and deactivate a feature to actually deploy jQuery across the site collection.
Ooh,
another way to do it.
That.
Yeah, and you can do, and that's actually still supported in Office 365 because it's not code; it's just XML. So that works out really well. But putting in the master page is also an option. But that is for scripts that are going to be deployed across an entire site collection, right? So any script you reference in your master page is actually going to be loaded on every single page. So you don't want to do that with a script that you only want to use on a couple of pages. Is there a way to check to see if a script is being loaded to check the reference is already loaded? Yes. There's some jQuery you can execute to check to see if a script is loaded, and if not, load it automatically. You can also use what's called a script link. You would have to put that in your master page using SharePoint Designer or Visual Studio, though. And what a script link does is it makes sure that if a script is already loaded, it won't load it again. So that's something you can look at. But then the other part of the script we have here is this is where the actual JavaScript, within the script tags is the JavaScript that's getting executed. So we've got our script references, we've got our CSS references, we've got CSS, we've got HTML, and we've got actual script on this file here. So that's all the different pieces of it. So let's just get into some examples and demos. That's too much code. I'm laughing at the Bill Clinton Giphy because I'm from Arkansas, right? And so is he. I did not deploy that code. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is do probably one of my most well-known blog posts, and that is putting SharePoint web parts into tabs. I probably get the most questions about this one, and it seems to have the most, people seem to know this one the most. So let's go ahead and show this in action so you can see how this works. So if we go to the website, copy this link. So here in the blog post, it will walk you through the entire process of using these tabs. But at the end of the day, what you want is you want this section of script right here. And if we load this where we can view it, what I'm doing in this script is, again, I'm doing those script references that we saw before. I'm referencing the scripts we need. And then I have some CSS. Then I have a HTML element that holds my tabs. And then I've got the script piece, which is responsible for creating the tabs. So if you want to actually create tabs with your SharePoint page, what you would do is you would take this script, and let me save it locally. I'll call it tabs.js. And then I'm going to go into my SharePoint site, and hopefully the script will actually work this time. If not, we'll have to do the debugging portion of the session. So I have a site here. I'm going to add a couple of web parts to this site. Let me just delete this web part. And I'm going to add a web part for, let's do tasks. So list out some tasks, and then I'll add another web part for, I've got this list called paid apps. I'll add that web part. Now, if we want these web parts to appear in tabs, all we have to do is add a web part to the page. It's going to be a media and content editor web part. And now I am going to edit the web part. And I'm going to reference that file we uploaded in Site Assets. Is that what I did? I upload to the wrong library? Site Assets, or did I not even upload it? You're not paying attention, Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't upload it. So I've got to actually upload the file. So pay attention, okay?
Okay.
Gosh, if you're not paying attention, how can you expect your audience to pay attention?
Dev stuff. What?
Right. It's not dev stuff. It's like how a power user does dev stuff.
It is. It is. I need to know this stuff.
All right. So now I'm applying the script.
They love it when I have to troubleshoot things that I screw up while I'm doing live demos because it just teaches me how to troubleshoot.
Well, actually, that's the thing, right? That's what I teach. Sometimes I put them in on purpose. But now you can see by adding that script to the page that we actually have our web parts in tabs now. And this script has a couple other things you can do to it. You can specify if you only want specific web parts to be in tabs. So if I only wanted that tasks web part to be in tabs, I can uncomment this piece of code here. And I can say, oh, I just want tasks web part to be in the tab. And so if I make that change and save it, and then I re-upload the script, did it re-upload? This is new. Replace. Are we in SharePoint or OneDrive? All right, so I replaced it. Now reload the page. And now you see that only the tasks are in the tab. The paid apps are out of the tab.
That is that's very cool.
Thank you. And there's some other things you can do with the web part. You can actually put multiple web parts within the same tab. So if in case you guys want to see that, let's go ahead and just so you know that's not smoke and mirrors. If you use this part of it, you can say, I want to give my tab a title. I'll call this, I'll just call it Hillbilly Tabs. That's what they're known as, Hillbilly Tabs. And then the title of each web part you want to be there. So I want tasks to be there, and I want, I think Paid Apps was Paid Apps to be there. So if I make that change, save it, and then re-upload it again. Another thing I like about this is how easy it is to make changes. You just update a file, replace the file. Is it going to upload? Come on.
I see you're using the new document library experience.
I'm not enjoying it, honestly, but yes, I am. For this instance, it's that I like to have the pop-up saying, do you want to replace it? I don't like having to click on the conflict and then saying, yeah, replace it. That's kind of a pain. But yes, this is the new document library experience. All right, so we'll refresh it. And if I didn't break anything, we can see it now both web parts are in that tab. So there's some things you can do with that to kind of customize what's going on there. All right, so that's our first demo. Any questions before I go on to the next demo?
I don't think there are any.
Okay. So my next couple of demos are actually from updated blog posts. So unless you've been, so these may be new to you, but they're some cool stuff that I thought that I would show you guys. So one of the things that I find customers ask for a lot are digital signatures. It seems to be one of those requirements that just always pop up. And I'll make these slides available to you actually after the fact. Go up them to SlideShare. But there's always this recommendation, or always this requirement, we want digital signatures. And we try to explain to users, but you've got the modified by, and you've got the modified date. There's your digital signature. And like, no, we need a physical signature. That's what we need. So I thought how I could do this with some jQuery to make it easy for users to get that without spending any money to do so. And I came up with this solution for my blog. So to implement this one's actually even easier to implement. If we come into the site here, let's say that we want to implement signatures on the tasks list. So in order to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to go into your list settings for whatever list or library that you want to use for your signature. Because what we need to do is we actually need to add a field to store that signature. In fact, I've already got this field on here, but I'm going to go ahead and delete it so you can see it happen from the very beginning so you know I'm not making anything up. I don't like smoke and mirrors. I like, oh, it actually does work. So here's my tasks list, just an out-of-the-box tasks list. I'm going to create a column, and I'm going to call it signature. It's going to be a multiple lines of text field, and it's going to be plain text. And I'm going to save that. So now I'm going to go to these forms for my task list. So I'm going to go to the List tab up here and go to the default new form. And this opens the new form in the page. And I'm going to add a web part to this page. And instead of adding the content editor web part, I am going to add a script editor web part to this one. So we're going to add a script editor web part, edit the snippet, and I'm going to grab the references from my blog post. So I'm just going to copy that, paste those in there, insert it, stop editing. And I'm also going to do the same thing for the display form. So I'm going to go to the form parts, default display form. I've got the script editor on here, and it's the exact same script references for the display form as well. All right, so now for my tasks, whenever I click on New Task, I now have a signature box here. And if I click on the pencil icon, it brings up a screen that says Sign Below. And you can actually sign that, click OK, and you can see it actually store it in that signature text box.
That is so cool.
Thank
So
you.
they could use like on a tablet or something, they could use their finger, but on their computer they could just use their mouse.
Yep, exactly. And if you've got a Surface, you can use the Surface Pen to do it as well. So it's your mouse, it's your screen. Yeah, so whatever you want to do with that.
Is that storing it as an image? I guess you're going to give.
No, it's not, because and that's all. I'll show that to you. So if you see this entry that was created, it's actually storing it in that signature field, that multi-line of text field, as an encoded base64 string. So it's not actually stored as an attachment. It's not stored as something that you would download as an image. It's just text. So when we go to view it, we can also view that signature, right? So it's a display form, and it's showing, with the script reference, it's able to show that signature as well. Any questions about that one? Oh, and thanks for that, Ariel. I appreciate it. All right. So if there's no questions, I'll go to the next one. So I guess one of the things people ask me about this one is they want to do.
There is one. How do you know when to use the content editor versus script editor? Isn't that the same concept?
So for the script, so here's the thing with the script editor. Let me go back. Let me edit the page, and you can see this. So if we look, that's a great question, by the way. So if I look at the snippet for the script editor, it is just references to scripts. If I want to put additional information in this script editor, I could, but then it's only on this page. So if I've got the same script that I want to use on 4 or 5 pages, and I use the script editor, and I need to make a change to one of these references, or I need to make a change to add some HTML or something else here, I've got to make that change on all 5 pages. However, if I use a content editor web part that references one file, and that one file references all the same stuff, I just make this change to this one file. And that means every content editor web part that references this one file get updated automatically. So for this instance, I used a script editor because I was just adding references to other scripts, and I'm never going to change this script. I'm never going to go in and change this script editor web part. That's the concept thing I've never.
You're not putting the code in the content editor web part itself. You're just putting a link to where the code, that one code file lives, as opposed to the script editor where you have to put the code itself.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, that's.
I think I just reiterated exactly what you just said in different words.
You know what? And if it helps people understand it better, then thank you very much. I speak Dev sometimes. I have to remember that I speak Dev.
You do speak Dev, kind of, but you speak more power user. I mean, you can translate. Like a lot of devs can't talk to humans, and you can. So.
It's called lots of SharePoints. All right. So. The next one we're going to do, which is also from my more recent blogs, why does it keep jumping around like that? Is a video portal. So one of the cool things about SharePoint and Office 365 is that you have a video portal. If I go into my site here and I go to my Waffle, I have a link for my video portal, and this is where you can store a lot of your videos. And what I really like about the video portal is that it processes all your videos. So when you upload it, it'll stream much better than if you ever try to store a video in a document library. So it's a great way to have videos. You can have different channels, so you can have all your training videos there, or maybe some marketing videos. But the problem is you've got to go to your video portal to actually get to these videos. I mean, you can embed them one at a time on your SharePoint site, but it's not dynamic at all, and it makes it really painful if you're adding lots of videos or changing videos. But there is an interface into the video portal which can allow you to bring those videos down into your SharePoint site. And that's what I'm doing with this next blog post. So again, this blog post walks you through it. There's even a video that shows you what I'm about to show you here. It gives you more information if you want to do this as a developer, you want to understand what's going on. But at the end of the day, to make this work, all I have to do is come to my SharePoint site, edit the page, We're going to add a web part to the page. And this could be a new page or it could be an existing page. I'm using an existing page here. And I'm going to, again, add that script editor web part. And I am going to edit the web part, edit the snippet, and take those script references directly from my blog and paste them in here. Save the page. So now I have this these links up here, and these links are for each channel that I have access to in the video portal. So if I click on one of these channels, it now shows me all those tiles that we saw from the video portal, and it's actually got to load those thumbnails for the first time. So the first time it loads, it has to load those. And now also, when you move your mouse over it, you get this little flip effect where it tells you more information about the video. You can change to other video channels if you want to, or go back.
That is very cool.
Thank you.
I like that.
You can also type in, there's a filter option here, so you can actually search for specific videos if you want to. If you know you have a lot, you can actually filter and find the one you're looking for. And then when you click on it, it'll automatically start playing the video in the dialog window. And you can even take this full screen if you want to. So, save so we can get full screen just like you normally do. So yeah, so that's that script there. We also modified this for users so that instead of having a pop-up box play the videos, we put the videos in a dialog or in a area above the channels, and it starts automatically playing the most recent videos. There's a lot. Once you learn the Dev side of it, you can start to customize these things and make them do really what you want to do. So any idea how to get only certain channels to show? Yeah, there is because it's actually a few calls I have to make here using the code, the dev part of it. The first one is it says, hey, give me the URL to my video portal. And then from that I say, hey, now give me all my channels. So you can actually, when you do that, hey, give me all my channels, you can say, well, I only want to view these channels, or automate it. So I'm looking just for the training videos. So once I found the training videos, now give me the videos for training automatically without having a user click on it. So again, it takes some more Devy stuff to do it, but it's all part of the API that you can go in there and do that yourself. Just for this instance, I had to display all the channels, and you have to click on the channel to have it display the videos for that channel. But you could automate all that. Any other questions? All right, so what is next? So another one I have is I have another blog post that's similar to the tabbed web parts, but it actually allows you to put your SharePoint forms into tabs because SharePoint forms are really ugly. People don't like the way those look. So what we can do is go to this blog post. Is everybody following this okay? Am I going too fast? Am I too Devy? Is it?
Yeah, I love it. I love the way you're showing all these examples. I guess just, in like 10 or 15 minutes or so when we wrap it up, I just we'll just do like a high-level overview of like the high-level concepts again, and after they've seen all the cool stuff that you can do. I do have one question about this one with the forms. So you and I chatted right before this started, and we were talking about, and I was asking you what's the difference between, we were talking about CSR versus JSLink versus jQuery, and what really is the difference, and I don't know, I'm not a dev, but so you're saying that JSLink is, that's the little setting that you see in web parts that came out in SharePoint 2013 that's fairly new, and
Yes.
That's for applying code in a specific form or web part. So this one that you're showing now is applied to a form, right? So would this be something that you could do as a JSLink, or how does that work? Like, I don't know.
I don't think you have access to JSLink on a form. If you did, you could. guess I should make that, but I don't think whenever you view a form you have access to a JSLink, but maybe that's
I'll
something.
go check that and just see. But
Yeah.
you're maybe right. Yeah.
But if you do have access to JSLink, you could do this with JSLink. Oh, but the other thing about this, which I really like, is this works in 2007 and 2010. So you can't use JSLink on 2007 or 2010. So.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So for all those people out there still in 2010, you can do all of this stuff in 2010 as well. So the basics of this script is that you take this script and you put it on one of your forms in SharePoint, and it will turn it into tabs. And the way this works, let me get the script here so we can see it better, is that you tell it in this little tab info section what you want, how you want your tabs to be laid out. And the way you do this is you tell it, but between these squiggly lines, what do you want the title of your first tab to be? And then there's a size field here, and it means how many fields do you want on your first tab. So it doesn't matter the layout of your form, how many fields you have. And this script doesn't really know anything about your form other than what do you want the title of a specific tab to be, and how many fields do you want on that tab. So in the default example, there's 3 tabs. The first tab will have 3 fields, the second tab will have 4 fields, and the third tab will have 5 fields. So if I save this script, and I'll call it Tabify. I don't know if Tabify is a word.
By the way, JSLink is there on a.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So you can use JSLink for this. I've never used it with JSLink, though, but, guess because I'm a devie. I'm a dev guy.
Again,
so
it just points to a JS file, right?
Yeah, and it just points to a JS file. So I'm not sure if JSLink is looking for specifically just JavaScript, because I'm using both HTML and references. So I'm not sure if JSLink, how JSLink likes that. It may say, no, I'm looking for purely a JavaScript file that has nothing but JavaScript in it.
Maybe.
So maybe. So I'm going to go back to this tasks form. Well, first I got to upload the script again. So back in site assets, we'll take this Tabify file, and that's uploaded to site assets now. So I'm back in my tasks list, and I'm going to go to the display form, and I'm going to delete this script editor, and I'm going to add a content editor web part. See, I didn't want to mess with having both those scripts in there because they do reference the same scripts, and so I'm not going to blindly just add both of them and expect it to work. And we don't have that much time left for me to go through and say, hey, here's exactly how I make them both work together, but you can. So I'm going to edit the script editor web part, or content editor web part, and I'm going to point it to site assets tabify.js. But, because we're on the form, I have to have one more .. And you can put the full path or the relative path to the scripts in this content link. So now, on the display form, if I go to display a task, it's got the first 3 fields in the title field. It's got the next 4 in the second tab, and the next 5. There's only 4 left, but the next 5 in the third tab. So this is how you can get those SharePoint forms into tabs.
So it's just up to you to put them in the correct order so that they'll fall onto the right tabs, right?
Right, exactly. So you go into your list view settings, and you can change the order of fields there. Maybe you have to change the order in the content type itself, but that's where you specify the order you want those fields to appear. Again, I wanted this script to be as dumb as possible so that it would be as generic as possible for different scenarios. So you just tell the name of the tab and how many fields to put on each tab, and then it lets the order from the list decide what those fields actually are. Any questions there?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So we're down to 15 minutes left. Do we want to see a couple more demos, or do you want to kind of wrap things up a little bit, or what do you want to do? Because I've got a few more I can go through, and I'll make this slide deck available to you guys afterwards that you can go through and play with it.
I don't know, maybe one more demo and then like a high-level overview of where all the major pieces, parts are, and kind of, yeah, like I said.
Okay, so let's do one more, and this one is going to be using one of the libraries I used actually for the video portal we saw to give yourself kind of a personalized tiles in your SharePoint site, similar to promoted links, but the thing with promoted links is that by default you only get one row of promoted links and they're not responsive at all. Using this script you can have multiple rows and it's responsive, and what's really cool is I like to do things like personalize a little bit by adding some permissions to it so that you only see that the files that you care about. Now
we have a couple of questions because they realize that they're going to lose you in a few minutes, and you've got like a bajillion fans in here going nuts. Greg says, do a REST/JSON call, and Annie Honeycutt says, can you show your promoted links?
So, do a REST JSON call. What do you mean? I actually did that for the video portal. So, what specifically are you asking for there, Greg? And can you show your promoted links? Are you saying can you use this same script to show your promoted links? The answer is absolutely yes. You'd have to tweak it a little bit, or you'd have to tweak it a little bit. Actually, I thought about rewriting it to use promoted links list because that might make more sense. If enough people ask me to do that, I might. But it uses basically the same information as in promoted links, and if I had more forethought, I probably just would have made it work off of the promoted links. But for this example and the way it's written now, you create a different list with certain fields in it.
We did do a whole SharePoint Power Hour about the JavaScript around customizing the promoted links, so I'll put a link to it in there. And yeah, you feel free to proceed with whatever demo you were going to do, though.
Okay. Well then, I mean, you guys have kind of like taken the steam out of this now. It's like, gosh, promoted links, you know all about that. So anyway, I'm giving you guys a hard time. So again, the blog post walks you through the steps. And we have this script that basically allows you to specify. Oh, the other thing that you can do with this script is specify how the size of those tiles. So they don't have to be all the same. You don't have to have them the default height of the promoted links. You can choose them to be smaller or bigger, however you want to. So when you have this script, one of the things you can specify is the width and height of the tiles. So I'm going to do a save as here, and I'll just call it tiles.js. And what this script is looking for is it's looking for a specific list in your site. And like I said, it's basically the same information as promoted links, and had I thought about it more, I would have just used promoted links list. But what it's using is a list that has a title field, that has the title of the tab, a link field for the link of where it goes to, a picture field for what picture do you want to show, and then the order field for what order do you want it to be in. So I've got this list set up with the different items in here. So I can go to a page. So I can go to my site contents, go to my site pages, and let me actually go back to this Power Hour page that we had. I'm going to edit the page. And I'm going to go and I'm going to change this reference after I upload it again. It's always a step of uploading the file to site assets you have to make sure you do. All right, now I can point this to tiles. And apply it. And I'll go ahead and delete these other web parts. Or leave them there, it's fine. So now we have those tiles, which again are similar to the promoted links, but they're going to be responsive. So if you make the page smaller and reload it, they're going to be able to go into multiple rows, unlike actually the minimum length is too wide. Let me go in here now Let me show you guys how if I change this to say I want to make the tiles bigger, all I have to do is change the setting, re-upload it. And now the tiles are bigger, and you see they took up the extra row because it needed to. If I resize as it goes out.
People love tiles, don't you agree?
They do. They really do. And it's just like, you know, they like tiles. They like image rotators. Tiles and image rotators. They're crazy about them. The last thing you can do with this script is you can change the show title to false. I change that to false. File save. And re-upload it. What do you think of the new document library view, Laura? Let's put you on the spot.
I think, well, I like the way it is for just, if I picture some end user or somebody that's completely new to SharePoint, like if I picture my mom trying to use SharePoint, I can see that the new document library experience, it all is more obvious and makes more sense to just like a typical end user just trying to work with files.
That's political. That's very political. So I set that show title to false. So you see now that the titles are listed on the tabs. And by setting that to false, when the page loads, it just shows the icon. So it doesn't show those titles. So that's something else you can do with this. So yeah, so there is that. Funny. Probably too late now, but I was looking at just using REST to query a particular item via filtering ID equals and forming a couple of fields to show that data. Yeah, it's probably a little bit too devy, but I could definitely I could point you to some blog posts, Greg, on how to do that. That's not too hairy, but yeah, probably a little bit outside the scope of this session.
All right, so let's recap what we learned about the concepts about where things are and basic things to know about what CSR and what it is. I keep calling this stuff CSR because it's client side as opposed to server side, I guess.
And CSR is not incorrect. I think it just evokes a different image to people, or in their mind to people who do it.
I'm gonna. Can you stop the screen sharing? We can just chat, I guess.
Yeah, let's stop the screen share.
There you go. Oh, whoa.
Whoa, you didn't need to see that much of me. Hey, and there's Joelle. Hi, Joelle.
Yeah, she's been hanging out the whole time.
Yeah.
Hello.
You got Ryan and Steven so busy, you just like cracked the whip on them, and all their meetings didn't work. They couldn't come. So
I did invite Steven. I didn't get a chance to invite Ryan, but I invited Steven.
Kind of a slave driver. Just messing with you. You don't look like a slave driver at all.
I appreciate that.
So what did we learn today, Mark? I don't know. I'm not a dev.
So I think we learned that you can do some pretty cool stuff by just uploading a file to a document library, adding a web part to a page, and then linking to that file that you uploaded. But hopefully you also understood that you can't just throw lots of stuff together on the same page and expect it to work. One of the follow-up items I usually tell people is if you really think this stuff is cool and you want to do more with it, I do some workshops on the subject, so you could learn from that. And also Pluralsight has some online videos to get you started with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then doing those things, you can really learn how to do these things, because you can do what you can do becomes pretty endless. It's very cool.
So what if I wanted to learn like the basics of, I'm not a programmer and I want to learn JavaScript and just the syntax and how to put things together so that I can at least be able to take some other people's code and know how to tweak it. Where do I go?
I would say probably go to Pluralsight. They have a lot of videos for a lot of different technologies, and not just SharePoint. They've got SharePoint specific videos, but then they've also got like stuff for JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and it's a lot of intro stuff. So it'll start you from the very basics, because you do have to I mean, you have to learn the basics of development. You've got to learn things like loops and variables and functions, and I've been doing it for so many years. I take for granted that it's not common sense to some people. So I would definitely check out some of their videos. Someone also, Greg said he likes Code School, so that might be a good one.
I wonder if Microsoft Virtual Academy has any of this stuff.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if they have anything that basic because, like I said, for someone with no coding background, you got to get those basics down to understand what's going on there.
Just go get a good old-fashioned JavaScript book, like JavaScript for Dummies or something.
You know, if you can do books, I don't do much book learning because that's why if I want to fall asleep at night, I pick up a technical book.
Yeah.
And after the first paragraph, I'm like, so videos, you know, I like to get to do things. I like to see things. So videos work much better for me.
Yep, cool. All right, well, yeah, and we have another Power Hour that we did, whatever, was it last year with you, where you talked about your product that you created for forms, right?
Yes, we have a product called Stratus Forms, and it actually takes all these same concepts, but allows you to create custom forms in SharePoint using CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. And I kind of market it as a lightweight InfoPath replacement because it does a lot of the same functionality that InfoPath does that you can't do out of the box, like repeating content and things like that. And I also have some functionality that you can't do in InfoPath at all, like you can do field level encryption. So if you have a social security number field on form, you can encrypt just that field very easily where only certain people can see it. And I know this InfoPath has some stuff like that, but I like to think mine's better. And plus, InfoPath is dying. I don't like InfoPath. It's not a mystery that I'm not a fan of InfoPath. But it's free too, and it's free.
That to people over and over again.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is people have to figure out an InfoPath alternative. They're just going to have to. Anything you create in InfoPath now, you're going to have to recreate at some point.
Yep. Speaking of that, next week's show we have, let me click on, get me showing there. Next week's show is going to be, we're going to do another one of my third-party product forums reviews like we did yours and we did K2 and Nintex and a couple of other. InfoWise, I have been using it with a customer recently. It's in Office 365, their product called InfoWise Ultimate Forms. It is awesome. So I'm going to be demoing that for Power Hour next week and showing you all that entails. So thanks everybody for coming. And I put thanks for coming, Mark. And I put my Power Hour schedule is a permanent place now on my blog on the under the resources tab. It says Power Hour schedule. So instead of just having it be a blog post, it's kind of floating around in there. So all right. Thanks, Joelle, for coming, too, and I guess we will see you all next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And if I could say one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I am curious how this flowed for power users, if it made sense, because like I said, I'm doing this as a session. So if you guys have any criticism, have any thoughts, if you're able to follow it, I would love your feedback. Just be nice, because I cry easily, so don't be too mean. But I would like to know.
Right at the chat window, yeah. We're still in there chatting, so.
Yeah.
We had up to 50 live viewers, Mark. That's huge.
Wow. Very cool.
Very popular. You're very popular.
Well, you know, I'm eye candy, so.
Okay, we'll see you later. Bye,
Thanks, everybody. Bye.